I'm Zachary Cowan, the author of the Study Daily books, and thanks for joining me for a look at Doctrine and Covenants, section 63, and this is part 3. In the section heading of this, you learn that Joseph Smith says, look, in the early infant days of the church, people wanted to know the Lord's will on everything. And right now, the most pressing thing that they wanted to know was how to obtain the land of Zion. And so they inquired. And of course, the Lord responded. I love that phrase. I love the idea that when we really are anxious and want to know about something, God will help us know it. But there's a key in what we need to be doing while we're anxious and wanting to get answers from the Lord. In verses 22 through 24, the Lord says, those who keep commandments shall obtain the mysteries. If you really want to learn what the Lord has to say about something that he hasn't revealed, you've got to first be keeping the commandments of what he said and trying. And if you're doing that, your heart is put in a position where he's going to reveal things to you. And so the Lord goes on and he tells Joseph Smith kind of what he expects. In verses 25 through 48, the Lord says, here's how to obtain the land of Zion. The best way to do it is to go buy it. And he says, I obey the law of Caesar. The best way to get the land is to purchase it from those in Missouri. And then there's no fighting. Don't go in proud and pompous. Don't do this in a rush or a hurry. And maybe the saints didn't quite listen to that. They kind of rushed down there and tried to buy it really pretty quick. And the Lord says, otherwise you'll have to purchase it with blood. And I've commanded you not to shed blood. And if you shed blood, there won't be very many of you left. And it will be disastrous. So don't go to do that. Instead, buy it. Well, how are you going to buy it? To some, he tells them, Titus Billings, I need you to sell land here in Kirtland so that you can go buy it in Missouri. And to others, Newell K. Whitney, he says, retain your store in Kirtland. And as you run a profitable store, send what money you can. In verse 40, the Lord says this really interesting thing. Whether you send a lot or a little to help purchase Zion, it doesn't matter. It's what matters is the willingness to make a financial sacrifice to build Zion. Even right now in your circumstances, whether you pay a lot of tithing or a little tithing compared to how much money you make, that's irrelevant. It's the sacrifice of tithing that qualifies you for the land of Zion. That's the covenant that allows us to become people who will one day inherit that land. And throughout this, the Lord's saying, like, Zion is important because of the second coming, and it's a place of safety and of refuge. And we know now that Zion can be built up wherever the saints are. And so the Lord's hints at the fact that it's going to take a little while to build Zion, because in verses 49 through 54, the Lord says, let me teach you about the death of the righteous before the second coming and the death of the righteous during the millennium. So go ahead, pause your video, and see what you can learn in verses 49 through 54 about the death of the righteous before the second coming and the death of the righteous during the millennium. See you in a minute. Hey, thanks for studying. So one of the things you saw, it doesn't matter whether you're righteous before the second coming or after, death's going to come to all. But there's a difference. Those who die before the second coming are resurrected when Christ comes, and they'll be with him and obtain an inheritance in the city of Zion and in the celestial kingdom, or the terrestrial kingdom and then the celestial. And those who die afterwards, well, after Christ comes, people continue to be born and die, and they will live until the age of a man. We find out later in Isaiah, or in the Doctrine and Covenants, that this is like 100 years old. People are going to be twinkled, and they'll be resurrected and then come forth. I'm sure there will still be accidents, and people will die and then be resurrected and come forth. So there's still death during the millennium, and yet there is still resurrection that comes to those people and inherit a land. Now then the Lord, in verses 56, 57, he corrects Sidney Rigdon and says, I want you to try again on describing the land of Zion and how important it is for people to make an offering so that we can purchase this. Now, the Lord moves into something that's a little different. When I was younger, I thought the worst swear word was the F word. And then I started to realize that it's not. It's not saying that F word that's the most bad swear word. What really damages people is when they take the name of the Lord in vain, which is way more common in all kinds of movies. See, it doesn't destroy God at all when we take his name in vain. What it does is it destroys us. And so the Lord, coming forth in verses like 58 through 64, talks about who he is, that he doesn't like being mocked, and the danger of taking his name in vain. Pause your video and see what the Lord says, because rather than just saying his name as a swear word, there is more to taking his name in vain. Check out verses 58 through 64. Hey, welcome back. So one of the things we learned in verse 63 is that this is specifically a warning to the members of the church who have the Lord's name upon them to act in his name, to do things in his name. We perform ordinances in his name. We say prayers in his name. We go forward in his name. We give talks in his name. Therefore, we have the opportunity to act in his name. And we should be careful that when we do this, that what we have received, what we know, comes sacredly from above. And we have an obligation to act as such. And as we go forth and we're careful with what we do in his name and what we say in his name and how we bless in his name, then we will receive blessings and give blessings and do things in his name that allow us not to use his name in vain. It's not just cursing, but sometimes if we have his name upon us as an individual in a church and we don't do what he would do, we also take his name in vain. May we not do that. Today, let's go forward with authority that he's given us to bless in his name, to pray in his name, to teach in his name, to help in his name, to act in his name, and he will be pleased. All right. Thanks for studying. We'll see you next time.